There's a stretch of old highway in the Arizona desert where if you stand in the middle of the road at dusk, you can hear absolutely nothing. No engines, no voices, just wind moving through the broken windows of a gas station that hasn't sold a gallon of fuel in 50 years. 100 years ago, this was the most famous road in America, Route 66. 2,400 miles of pavement from Chicago to the California coast. They called it the Main Street of America. Families drove it to start new lives. Truckers ran it day and night. And all along its length, towns sprang up out of nothing, built on the simple promise that the cars would never stop coming. Then, one by one, the cars stopped coming, and the towns died. Some emptied slowly, some emptied almost overnight, and a few emptied in a way the people who still live nearby don't like to talk about. Places they'll tell you plainly not to go after dark, not because of ghosts, because of what actually happened there. These are 7 of them. And the question underneath all of them is the same one nobody who built these places thought they'd have to answer. How do you walk away from everything you built and never come back? Let's drive west. Number 7, Glenrio, on the Texas and New Mexico state line. Glenrio sits in 2 states at once. The state line runs straight through the middle of town. The gas was cheaper on the Texas side, so the filling stations clustered there. Liquor was legal on one end and not the other, so the bars all stood on the New Mexico side. Its most famous motel was called the State Line, and its sign faced west, so travelers leaving Texas read, "Last Motel in Texas," and travelers heading the other way read the back of the same sign, "First Motel in Texas." For 50 years, Glenrio thrived on motion. Then, in the early 1970s, Interstate 40 was built parallel to Route 66, and it bypassed Glenrio by a few hundred yards. A few hundred yards was all it took. The off-ramp didn't reach the town, and the cars that had fed Glenrio for half a century simply stopped turning in. Today, 17 buildings still stand along the old roadbed, weathered and empty. The State Line Motel sign is still there. It still tells you you're entering Texas or leaving it, depending which way you're facing. There's just no longer anyone in Glenrio to welcome either way. Number 6, Texola, on the Oklahoma and Texas border. Texola could not decide which state it was in. It was surveyed so many times that the border kept moving underneath it. Its unofficial slogan, painted on a building that still stands, reads, "There is no place like Texola." In its prime, it had a cotton gin, a school, businesses, and a one-room jail built in 1910, with stone walls dug several feet underground so no prisoner could tunnel out. The jail is still there. It is the best preserved building in town. The cells outlasted the homes. When Interstate 40 bypassed it in the 1970s, the travelers vanished and the businesses closed. The population fell into the single digits. At night, the main street of Texola is one of the darkest places you will ever stand, on a road that was once lit end to end. Number 5, Cuervo, New Mexico. Cuervo was born from the railroad in 1901, and Route 66 gave it a second life. It was never large, a few hundred people, a church, a school, homes on both sides of the tracks. Then the highway engineers made a decision that cut the town in half. When Interstate 40 was built, it did not bypass Cuervo. It went straight through it, slicing the community into a north side and a south side. To get from one half of your own town to the other, you now had to cross a federal highway. Slowly, the families gave up and left. What is left is one of the eerie sights on the whole route, a stone church and a scatter of adobe houses, silent on a hillside, with Interstate 40 thundering past just yards away. Thousands of people pass Cuervo every day at 70 miles an hour. Almost none of them know it is there. The town did not get bypassed. It got driven through and left for dead in plain sight. Number 4, Amboy, California. Out in the Mojave Desert, where the daytime heat can crack a windshield, Amboy was an oasis built entirely on Route 66. Its heart was Roy's Motel and Cafe, with a towering neon sign shaped like a boomerang that could be seen for miles across the flat desert dark. Then, Interstate 40 was built to the north, and Amboy was left stranded on a road that no longer went anywhere people needed to go. The traffic didn't dwindle, it evaporated. Within a few years, the town was nearly empty. Here's the detail that stays with you. People keep buying Amboy and trying to bring it back, and it keeps refusing to fully come back. The sign has been relit. The cafe occasionally opens, but Amboy at night is still one lonely outpost in 100 miles of black desert. The Mojave doesn't hate Amboy. It just doesn't care whether it lives or dies, and that indifference is its own kind of horror. Number 3. Ludlow, California. Ludlow had already died once before. It started as a railroad and mining town in the late 1800s, boomed on borax and silver, and faded when the mines played out. Then Route 66 came through and resurrected it. Gas stations, a cafe, a motel, the whole roadside economy rising a second time out of the desert. Then the interstate took it a second time. This is the quiet cruelty of Ludlow's story. A town that got 2 lives and lost both the same way. By being left off the road, everyone else was now driving. The old Route 66. Ludlow sits in ruins south of the interstate. A skeleton cafe, the bones of a motor court, foundations in the sand. Being on the route was never a guarantee. The road gave, and the road took away, as casually the second time as the first. Number 2. Oatman, Arizona. The town that refused to die and the price it pays. Oatman is the exception that proves the rule. It was a gold mining town in the Black Mountains, and at its peak in the 1910s and the 20s it pulled millions in gold out of the rock. When the gold gave out, and Route 66 was later rerouted around the brutal mountain grade, Oatman should have died like all the others. It did not. But what kept it alive is the haunting part. When the miners left, they turned their pack burros loose into the mountains. Those burros never left. Their descendants still walk the streets of Oatman today, wild animals wandering an almost empty town, the living remnants of a population that vanished a century ago. A few dozen people and a herd of feral donkeys hold down a town the modern world drove around and forgot. It is alive. But it is alive the way a memory is alive. Number 1. Two Guns, Arizona. We end at the place the locals really will warn you about. Two Guns sits on the edge of Canyon Diablo, and its name was heavy with story before Route 66 ever arrived. There is a legend attached to the canyon, a tale of an 1878 massacre in a cave below the rim, and of a curse left on the ground afterward. You will hear it told as fact at every stop along this road. Here is the honest truth, and it matters. Most historians do not believe it happened the way it is told. Arizona's own state historian concluded that much of the massacre story was likely invented by a writer in a 1968 book, repeated so often since that it hardened into fact. So we will call it what it is, a legend. But here is what is documented, and it is darker than any curse. In 1922, a couple named Earl and Louise Cundiff built a trading post here on Route 66. They leased part of it to a man who called himself Harry Two Gun Miller, who falsely claimed to be an Apache chief. In 1926, after an argument over the lease, Miller shot and killed Earl Cundiff. He was tried and acquitted. And then Two Guns seemed to turn on him. Miller was mauled by the very animals in the roadside zoo he had built to draw tourists. Fire tore through the trading post. The business failed. Two Guns flickered in and out of life for decades and was eventually abandoned. What stands there now is genuinely unsettling. The roofless stone shell of the trading post, the empty concrete cages of that zoo, ruins crumbling at the edge of a canyon. You do not need a ghost story to feel it. A man died here over a lease. The town that grew up around the telling of a massacre could not keep a single business alive. That is not a curse. That is just what Route 66 did, in the end, to everything built on it. So why did they all die? Every one of these towns was killed by the same thing. Not a disaster, not a curse, a decision made in an engineering office far away to move the road a few hundred yards north. Route 66 was replaced by the interstates, and the interstate did not need these towns. It did not stop for them. It did not even slow down. A town built entirely on the promise that the cars would never stop coming has no reason to exist the moment the cars find a faster way around. They thought they were building the main street of a whole country. They were actually building the most elaborate ghost trail in America. Towns that lived and died by a single road, and that now sit out in the desert dark, their signs still facing a highway that moved on without them. Stand on that old pavement at night, in Glenrio or Texola or Two Guns, and the silence tells you everything. These were not nowhere places. They were somewhere, once. Full of people certain the road would carry them forever. It did not. And that is why the locals do not go after dark. Not because the dead are restless, but because there is nothing out there now but the wind, the broken neon, and the proof of how fast forever can end. If this is the kind of history you want kept alive, subscribe and stick around. There is more of it coming, and these stories are worth remembering. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next stretch of road.